practical example from Thailand.
This paper will discuss the practical application of PBL with computer simulation in the university learning environment. A graduate school of management in Thailand adopted PBL in the course Consulting Practice, Organizational Change, CPOC, which has as its objectives the understanding of how to think about change and manage implementation. Hal-linger, 2005. The course utilized a computer simulation called Making Change Happen invented by Hallinger and Bridges, 2007. The computer simulation required learners to manage the change process of an organization seeking to implement new software in 3 pilot branches with 24 staff over a 3-year time horizon. The implementation budget available for each year is limited, less available, and not transferable into consecutive years. The team assignment had 2 goals: to maximize the number of routine users of this new software and improve the overall effectiveness of the organization measured as bennies in the simulation. The theory and rationale was not provided at this initial stage, it was only summarized through learners' direct experience at the end of the course. The setup of the learning environment of this course was intended to be in small group. Learners worked in groups no larger than 3 persons. The small group environment provided natural motivation with low pressure and a friendlier learning atmosphere. Larger groups were not encouraged because it reduces the quality of idea sharing and discussion flow. Each team sets their ultimate goals for the end of the 3-year simulation, and then prepares their strategy and implementation plan for the first year. Learners usually experiment with different plans and activities. The plan may not always be successful on its first attempt. At this stage, learners will learn to manage and handle the changes systemically and learn the best sequence for managing change, specifically what should be done first, what can be done later, and appreciate the whole implementation process. The computer simulation evaluates interactively each group's decisions and provides on-screen feedback. Feedback also depends on the team's earlier moves and their overall progress in addressing the problem. Learners learn from consequences of their decisions and use this feedback in group discussion to modify their team's strategy. The discussion is another important aspect of the learning opportunity. Small group discussion facilitates development of a better strategy than solving the problem alone would allow. Through observation of the feedback to their short-term planning, learners can analyze their progress to their goal and set the plan for next move. This is the debugging stage of learning and is analogous to the check and act in Deming's 2000 plan do check act cycle. When learners solve the situation, they see themselves as the real consultant solving the problem for this organization. This is evidence of the immersive environment of the simulation. Participants take on the perspective of someone actually in the situation portrayed. In this manner, learners better understand the results from their own practice in simulation. After a few classes, with all teams practicing through the end of year 3, the lecturer will allow every team to visit other teams to observe and exchange their practical experiences. The lecturer may guide learners to observe why different teams, starting with similar ultimate goals and resources, can come up with different consequences at the end of year 3. This is because each team utilized a different strategy and more than one solution exists to the problem. Students practice the simulation with their team for 6 weeks. Finally, the groups summarize their learning through a team-based report, which analyzes their group's approach to change management over the 3-year time horizon of the simulation. Each learner also wrote an individual reflective essay, to demonstrate how they applied lessons learned with real experience. The lecturer then combines the lessons learned with relevant theories of change management and summarizes the key lessons at the end of the course. The lecturer then explains the lessons by reference to examples from the simulation that everyone has now experienced, making it easier to follow the conclusion. The teacher may discuss both good and bad decisions. Within the simulation, The theories, concepts and process of change management can be more readily understood when applied to a real-life setting. One student participating in the simulation remarked in the course evaluation, "I really like the simulation. It's a great tool to help us understand theory, and at the same time we can try the wrong choice, trial and error, to see the next result, what will happen. Better to make mistakes here than at work." Hallinger and Bridges, 2007, p. 194. Advance of technology during the past 10 years greatly enhanced the potential of PBL. Telesco, 2006, also supports this idea. He noticed that theorists argue that when participants are engaged in a reality-based scenario, there is an ability to move out of the cognitive realm into the emotional, where attitudes and feelings can be tapped into and education and change can be stimulated. With this evidence, it can be confirmed that the problem-based learning is another interesting learning approach for management learning.